Okay, we're starting with Clara Heyman, Clara Elzeba Magdalene Heyman, born in September 16th, 1893. Okay, and her husband Albert Sylvester Spooner. Initials were ASS, so he didn't like to be referred to by his initials. They met. My grandmother completed a 13th year of school at Orland High School to become certified as a California teacher, and it probably would have been about 1910. I think she graduated with her teaching credentials. She went to Orland High School with her younger sister Ella Heyman. And she got a teaching job down a dirt road which eventually became Interstate 5 in Willows, where she boarded with the Spooner family, a very large French-Canadian family, and with I believe it was 16 sons and daughters, 12 that survived. And I don't know exactly how things transpired, but on, I believe, August 11th, 1915, and I have the wedding invitation right here.
Oh my goodness!
There you go. It doesn't have it's 1950, I can tell you that for sure.
Wow.
I think, was it say August 11th? At high noon. Mr. and Mrs. J. What was it? It was German print. J.H. Heyman request your presence at the marriage of their daughter Clara E.M. to Albert S. Spooner.
Wow.
Okay, at the, where is it, their home in Orland, near Orland. They were actually from Germantown, which is between Willows and Orland. Germantown had to change its name to Artois during World War I. So Clara was boarding with the Spooner family, and Albert was the tallest and most handsome son of the Spooners, and he, I think, was about 30, in his early 30s, and must have thought that young German girl was pretty cute. She certainly was. And so this is 1915, and I believe that they lived at the Spooner Ranch outside Orland. The Spooners still to this day have rice farming around Willows. And they're obviously was a very large, prolific French-Canadian family. And Clara was, I don't know if this created a scandal. Clara was Lutheran German, and they were French-Canadian Catholic. But eventually, Clara converted to Catholic, and I think changed political parties too. But their first son, Lawrence Larry, was born in, I believe my mom and I determined it was 1916, May 25th. Their second child, Mary Marcelia, later known around here in Oroville as Mary Ann, but her mother always corrected it Mary, not Mary Ann. Mary Marcelia Spooner was born, I believe, 1917. We determined in 1917. I think it was St. Nicholas Day, December 6th. And then a few years later, around, we determined probably it was the month of October 1920. My grandfather Albert made a trip to look for land around, the idea was to get something around Saratoga and Santa Clara counties, something a little bit cooler than the Sacramento Valley. My grandmother always remembered cooking over a hot wood stove for the hired hands as being about the worst thing that could ever be done. And so Albert took a side trip through Lake County, passed through Middletown. Apparently there had been early rains in October, and the real estate agent took him to this place with a beautiful apple orchard. and the beautiful red apples, everything green. You didn't make it to Santa Clara County. Bought the place on the spot without my grandmother's permission. I imagine that might have created something of a discussion in the family when he got back. And so then on March 13th, 1921, the family officially moved to the new place. The old Coburn place. The Coburn family had quite a history. If you go back to the end of the 19th century, there's been quite a few write-ups around about the Coburn family, the son that was a kleptomaniac. And the place has quite a bit of history, and there's still a place on the ranch called Coburn's Cache where this fellow hid stolen goods, and we still have that to this day. It's actually no longer on our property. The property was sold off a few years ago after that part of the property was sold off a few years ago after the fire. But to take you out and take a picture of it, show it to you.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And okay, so the old Coburn place was one of the original parcels, a 360-acre parcel. I think they called that a section. Mm-hmm. And it's on the original maps of the Middletown Township that you have in here. And it says Coburn next to the McKinleys. And what's now the Dennis Ranch adjoins that. And the Coburns sold it to, after the incident with well, there was a posse that went out, and a fellow by the name of Collins, according to Earl Reedon, was trigger happy and saw the Coburn father peering out of a manzanita bush with a gun and shot him. So that led to the downfall of the Coburn family in southern Lake County. This is around 1899. The Lake County Historical Society has several write-ups on this. And okay, so it passed through two different families in the next 20 years, between 1900 and 1920, when my grandfather bought the property. And let's see. Okay, the house that was originally on the property when my grandparents and their two children, Larry and Mary, moved in, was, from what we understand, built sometime around 1915. There had been the old Coburn house apparently burned down in a fire in 1912. That's written down somewhere in the historical documents that we have. 1915, I get that date because it was said that the house was built with leftover scrap lumber from the Pan Pacific exhibition in San Francisco. So when my grandparents got here, there was not much more than a main room with a kitchen, a big stone fireplace, and sort of a tent where the family slept. And Aunt Mary they called it the old tent, and it had sort of a tar paper roof, and it must have been kind of scary in the rain. But over the years, the house was expanded. Things were moved around, and it was always kind of a mystery to me as a kid when they'd say the kitchen used to be here and in the middle of the dining room, and then at one point it had a porch that went all the way around the house, like a lot of the places did in those days, and that was gone by the time I can remember, in the early 60s. There was room additions. 2 bedrooms were built in the 30s during the Depression, obviously without modern codes. And
well, they didn't have building codes in Lake County until the early 1950s.
Okay.
So everybody who built anything before 1950, there were no permits required or anything. Yeah. So it was strictly up to the person who was building it to either hire somebody that knew what they were doing, or they needed to know what they were doing themselves.
Well, we didn't choose too well. Somebody from the church told about 1969, I think. My mom was reading me Winnie the Pooh one night when I heard a clunk. Suddenly a cry from the next room, "Dolores!" My grandmother's bed, leg of grandma's bed fell through the floor.
Oh my goodness!
So a new house was built. Another house was built for my uncle and my grandmother in between 75 and 77. We moved them in 77. My parents moved up in 78. But going back to quite a ways, after Mary and Larry were the only two kids when they moved to Lake County in 1921. It was a rainy day. Mary stuck her head out the window of the car to try to catch raindrops as they were going up the old toll road.
Wow.
And there was no Highway 29 in 1921.
Right. And I've been on the toll road, the part
Section.
that's still there, that section. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And to think of stages coming over that too.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So the next daughter, Carmel Helene Copeland, was born in 1922. Frances was born in 1923.
And Copeland was her married name, right?
Carmel's married name was Copeland. Yes.
Right.
So the Copelands come from Aunt Carmel.
Okay.
And my mom was the last, but in 1927, February 28th.
So she's the baby.
She's the baby of the family.
Wow.
Says the tough thing is that when you're the last one, you have to see everybody go first, and that's been a tough thing for.
Yeah.
So that's how the Spooners the Spooners ended up in Lake County. Now, Hugo Heyman, Clara's youngest brother. Clara was the oldest of five kids, five kids in the Albert and Clara Spooner's family. There were five Heyman kids, and Clara was the oldest. Hugo, or Huck as he was known around here, was the youngest. And again, he was well over 6 feet tall, probably 6'1" or 6'2". He always had to duck his head coming through the kitchen door.
And Ski wasn't a short woman either.
No, and she was a very attractive young lady. Hugo came to town. I'll get the date from my mother if we have it. I think he came to help with one of the building projects. I know there was I think he was helping build the kitchen because there was a crease in the kitchen roof that Larry said, well, that's where the sheetrock got away from Uncle Hugo. All these things could be associated with the person.
Exactly.